As more and more begin to know, the status quo has got to go. They're bound to say yes to a man named Dr. No, a man who makes the establishment panic. Grassroots are growing way too wild, too organic.
Here's Gerald Salenti with today's trends in the news.
The cover's going to be out in a little bit, and we wanted to get you the information coming out so you could be on top of the trends and ahead of the news. And the news is when you listen to Lloyd Austin, the guy that's playing now a defense contractor, or excuse me, defense secretary. He used to work for the defense contractor. He used to work for Raytheon, the second largest defense contractor in the United States. So he goes over to Israel. And yesterday he meets with Netanyahu. And he said, the U.S.'s commitment to Israel is unshakable. America's commitment to Israel is unwavering. And no individual group or state should test our resolve. Hey, wait a minute. No individual? How about go fuck yourself? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? I'm an American citizen. I don't have a right to disagree with you and America's policy that's murdering people all over Gaza and in the West Bank. This is America? Oh, I forgot. You work for Raytheon. I forgot you slaughtered people in Iraq as a general. Yeah, war based on lies brought to you by another piece of shit, little Billy Clinton. Billy Clinton. No, I forgot him. Excuse me. He gave us the first Iraq slaughterings. I forgot little Georgie Bush. One murderer after another. Yep. So the cover of the Trends Journal says it all for this Christmas season. Prince of Peace? No peace on earth. Merry Christmas? Screw you. Go to hell. Hey, how are Christmas sales doing? F you to the Prince of Peace. I'm Lloyd Austin. I'm little Biden boy. I'm little Lindsey Graham. Ladies, look, how fucking stupid can you be to listen to these people? Austin goes on. He vowed that the U.S. could continue to provide Israel. You ready? This is the guy. Take off your mask. You take it off now. You're standing up. You're 6 feet apart. You can take your mask off. Okay. Don't. Hello, everybody. Here I am. And you put your mask back on, everybody. Oh, by the way, they're selling the COVID scare again. COVID's coming back. New variant. You better watch out. He goes on to say that the United States would continue to provide Israel, quote, with the equipment that you need to defend your country. Huh. Defend your country? Hey, how about this? What just happened today over there in Israel, bombing away and killing, that picture up of killing over 100 Palestinians. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, right to defend yourself? How about go fuck off? Oh, you're getting Hamas? Who the fuck you talking to? You're slaughtering 100 innocent people over here. And as we keep saying, as the dollar dies, the future is paved with gold. And, they're bragging about, Christmas sales are going up and everything. This is week 66. Take a trip on Route 66. Yep, that's what music used to be, music. Almost 40% of companies will cut staff in 2024. 66 weeks we've been going over this. Store size is shrinking. Article just came out today about all the people shopping online, and Generation Z, Gen Z, and the ones that are coming before them, or after them, I should say. They're addicted to online. They're going to go more and more online. So what do? How do you profit from this? Because there are profit opportunities, and we notice that. We note that. Yeah, The Walking Dead. That's who it's become. And then we have what rents are going down. Wonder why and where. And again, the office building bust that nobody's talking about that's going to bring down the banking system. Corporate bankruptcies rise by double digits. No shit. Blow me away. Would have never known it by listening to the clowns, the prostitutes on the media that brainwash you with crap, or reading the toilet paper or record or the Wall Shit Journal. But you get it with your Trends Journal. And speaking of variety of evils, UN rights chief, quote, extensive failure by Russia to protect Ukraine civilians. Yep, this guy, Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said on Tuesday that he's monitoring what they call that his office monitoring indicated, quote, gross violations of international human rights laws, serious violations of international humanitarian law, and war crimes, primarily by the forces of the Russian Federation. He's 100% right. Terrible. And according to the numbers by Turk, 10,000 civilian deaths in Ukraine and 560 children. And now the numbers in Gaza. Let's see. Since October 7th, almost 20,000 Palestinians, including 7,500 children. But don't worry about it, because Zelensky said that he has no worries. The United States is going to send more money to keep the war going as our country goes down the crapper.
You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You tell everybody I'm busted. You talk so much you got me disgusted. But you run your mouth and I run my business, brother.
All right, big news. Everyone's all fascinated. From the BBC, U.S. judge orders names of more than 170 Jeffrey Epstein associates to be released. And we're all getting excited. Everyone's like, hey, what happened to all those names? You had a case with that lady and she went to jail and we don't know any of these associates. And everyone's been getting excited. We've been hearing about these associates the whole time. And let me tell you, this associate thing, it's not the interesting storyline. The interesting storyline is what the hell happened to that safe. The FBI took in a safe that was in the guy's office, had all the blackmail tapes. I'm just claiming that. I don't actually know what was on them. And then it just, it just disappears. The FBI goes out, we lost it. We made sure to get that out of there, and we just managed to lose what could have been the most important piece of evidence in all of American history. It's just lost. We don't even know what happened to it. And now everyone's getting all excited for the associate list. But I'd like to know, what the fuck is an associate list? What does that mean? Like, you're going to have everyone going, yeah, I was associated because I was the napkin person at one of his dinner parties. Or I was involved in when he was doing the actual saving thing, when he was making the money to give it to the people who were going to get the Nobel Peace Prize awards. That's all I was involved in. This is from ABC News. The documents might not make clear why a certain individual became associated with Jeffrey's lawsuit, whatever that lady's name was, but more than 150 people are expected to be identified in hundreds of files that may expose more about Epstein's sex trafficking of women and girls in New York, New Mexico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and elsewhere. Some of the names may have simply been included in depositions, emails, or legal documents. Who knows? Maybe we'll fun. Maybe we'll be able to show up to all sorts of random places, show up shirts and go, what exactly was your association with Jeffrey Epstein? And all right, listen, everyone's in a hole up in arms. You know, you got this case out in Colorado where they're going, Donald Trump can't be on the ballot because he engaged in an insurrection. We've covered this on the show before. This is not breaking news. If you're a fan of the Run Your Mouth podcast and you enjoy living in the future and celebrating being right, we've covered this one before. I've let you know about this. They were using that language of insurrection sneakily from the beginning of this thing because they knew if they were able to convince enough people that this was an aspect of an insurrection, they might be able to say that Donald Trump is not eligible to run for president again. And they're doing everything they can to make sure that voters can't vote for Donald Trump. Trying to convince you that he's got nuclear documents in his house, trying to wrap him up in this lawsuit, that lawsuit. Jack Smith, they're going after him in every which direction. It would seem to me like this one's going to go to the Supreme Court, and it's not going to stick around. That's just my guess. I can't say for sure. Haven't read all the nooks and crannies on this guy. But there are some variables. And one is there was a similar court case that I believe we talked about in the show recently. I believe it was in Michigan, and that one got thrown out. So I don't know why the Supreme Court in Denver came to a different conclusion. I also don't know why any of us feel like we live in a free country with a just justice system where it all just seems to be some game about whether or not you get more judges that are on your side than are on the other side. So I guess he goes up to the Supreme Court. Donald Trump is lucky that he got more Republicans on the thing in the last one, so it likely side in his favor. In Colorado, he got more liberal justices, wasn't in his favor. What a system. If you can just, get enough of your people into it, doesn't matter what the law is. It just matters if you're lucky enough to get justices that want to support your side more than the other. So anyways, first question I got for you. I'd like to know why the Michigan court sided differently than this court. Second is, why just the ballot? If you're telling me that this guy's not allowed to run because he was involved in an insurrection and that it's a violation of our Constitution to engage in insurrections and then hold office, then he should just be barred from holding office. I would think, like ballots, can I write people in? Can I still vote for a guy even if he's not on the ballot? I think it works that way. Can enough people show up and write in Donald Trump and then he can win anyways? So I don't understand why this would just be a ballot access issue. I would think they would need to be making a determination that he's not allowed to run at all. I would think that that would be the determination that would have to be made. All right, now I'm going to throw this out there that it would look to me like the Supreme Court is probably going to get rid of this. I can't say that for fact. We'll see what happens when it gets there. But they also got the Jack Smith one coming through, which is Jack Smith wants to know if presidential immunity makes his entire case a moot point. And, the Supreme Court's sitting around and on both of these, like, fuck, we have to actually weigh in on these because they're lazy. They like to kick everything back to whoever they can and go, hey, this isn't our obligation. This is for you to figure out. Or what we saw with the coronavirus, they could go, yeah, government shouldn't be doing this at all. But if they are going to do it, they at least need to apply these laws equally between churches and malls. And, they're lazy people over there. They try not to exert their authority. They try and stay out of these things. I wonder if they're just going to maybe Clarence Thomas or someone else can just get up and can you guys just knock it off? Just be like, can you guys just stop with all this Trump shenanigans? Maybe that would be better if they just decided the first one where they go, yeah, the guy was president. He can't be prosecuted. Go beat him in an election. This is supposed to be up to the voters. And you guys are wasting a lot of taxpayer resources to, make this not fair fight. That'd be great. If they called it the just knock it off ruling of 2024, the first, maybe they made that the government's New Year's resolution was to quit being annoying on everything Trump and just making this a whole circular thing of nonsense. Like I've said, Trump is a racist old lady. And what happens is if everyone's outside beating up on the racist old lady, you don't hear the racist old lady being a racist. And so you take the old lady's side where you're like, why is everyone being mean to this old lady? But then if you leave the old lady alone, you stop beating her with canes and throwing her purse all over the place. She starts collecting her things and you go, you see, that's why we can't have the blacks in this country. Everyone's like, oh my God, that's a racist old lady. And that's the problem. All these things, you're just waking people up to how evil our government is and how annoying the whole Trump thing was. Like, you're going to reverse all the stuff you did the last time around when you threw a temper tantrum and people are like, you know what? Can we just get rid of Trump so I don't need to hear the temper tantrum anymore? I think enough of this shenanigans. People are going to start waking up of quit throwing a temper tantrum. This is annoying.
And Johnson makes a very important point. As a former military person and CIA analyst, the U.S. Navy is unprepared for a prolonged war with Yemen. Unprepared. We've got a couple carrier groups in there. We've got innumerable. You have an Aegis a cruiser here shooting off a missile. You have tons of these in the area. Nevertheless, you have an enormous amount of danger. You have shipping stopped. The major insurance companies are refusing to provide insurance to Israeli ships or ships that will go to Israeli ports. And insurance for the rest of the ships is very high too. Go to the next clip. This is what Larry Johnson is pointing out in his very important article. He says, tiny Yemen has surprised the West with its tenacity and ferocity in attacking ships trying to ferry containers and fossil fuel to Israel. Yes, it's a violation of international law, and the West is fully justified in trying to thwart Yemen. On paper, it would appear that Yemen is outnumbered and seriously outgunned. A sure loser, not so fast. He says the U.S. Navy, which constitutes the majority of the fleet sailing against Yemen, has some real vulnerabilities that will limit its actions. And he goes on to point out a few of them, which is that the U.S. Navy of today is not the U.S. Navy of before. They've jettisoned a lot of the of their original. He talks about, and I won't want to go too far into the woods here, but they've decommissioned some of the submarine tenders, all of the repair ships and destroyer tenders, moved away from sailor-manned shore intermediate maintenance centers. Not only did this eliminate the ability to conduct intermediate maintenance over there, but it destroyed the progression of apprentice to journeyman to master technician that made the U.S. Navy sailor one of the premier maintenance resources in the military world. To shorten essentially what he's saying is these ships are high maintenance and they don't have any maintenance people on them. They rely on going back to port, not only for maintaining the ships, but also for the missiles. They cannot reload at sea, and it's a big deal. It's a big problem for them because each of these cruisers, these Aegis cruisers, carries 9 missiles, and these 9 missiles are used to shoot down incoming drones, incoming missiles from Yemen. And as Johnson pointed out in his piece, okay, you've got 90 of these. After that, you got to go back, you got to find a port somewhere and reload. Well, what if the Houthis shoot 91? You're able to shoot down 90, that's great. But what about that 91st? What about if they do a drone swarm, hundreds and hundreds come in? You're going to have a potentially extremely serious situation in the Red Sea area. Going to be a very difficult time, and you have, I don't know how many numbers of U.S. ships, U.S. military ships there. You sink 1 or 2 of them, what's that going to do to the perception of U.S. military invincibility? So it's a real powder keg, it's a real danger. I'm sure there's nothing that Biden and his neocons would like to do more than just take out Yemen, take them down, take out the Houthis. Not that easy. The Saudis already tried it. So we'll keep a very close eye on this, guys. This is important. Your gas is going to go up. You're going to notice it at the pump, and it could get a lot worse.
And he is on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So this is his committee. And now let's listen to, what do we want? We want 1 minute and 7 seconds of what Representative McCormick has to say.
I just got back from a conference at the Reagan Library where we had several secretaries of defense, we had secretaries of state, we had an amazing array of both Democrats and Republicans, but every Republican, and I'm talking to Republicans right now, I think this is a really important conversation to have. Every single former Secretary of Defense I've talked to, all the way back to Reagan, is very much in support of Ukraine. The strategic outcome of Ukraine will not only impact all of Europe, but also the Far East. China's paying attention to what's happening there. They're looking at what they want to do in Taiwan, which would be catastrophic to our chip industry, by the way, because they produce 100% of our AI chips. It's a strategic corridor where I think 70% of the world's wealth goes through every single day. It is a strategic essence to keep Ukraine. First of all, we made a promise, both in the Budapest Accords and NATO's unanimous vote to support a country that was invaded by a communist country.
Okay, talk about that here.
So there are a couple of things in this. Representative McCormick on the Foreign Affairs Committee, on the Armed Services Committee, says that we must defend Ukraine because it was invaded by a communist country. Well, as we know, the Soviet Union ceased to exist in 1991, and certainly Russia, which it was part of the USSR, has not been communist for those 30-some years. So incredibly ill-informed. You can make a slip. It didn't sound like a slip. He also misrepresented the Budapest Memorandum. But the other thing I want to draw your attention to on this, if you watch the clip, he went to an event at the Reagan Library where he got a song and dance, and he repeated every single Republican I talked to. Well, what were they like? Were they neocons? More than likely. But the other thing in closing that I would point to, look how often he looks down at his desk as he tries to throw out these quotes. He was given a list. He was given talking points, maybe by these wonderful secretaries of defense at the Reagan Library. Nevertheless, he's repeating lines that it looks very clear to me that he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what he's saying. He doesn't understand the rationale. My guess is if you could have him sitting here on the show and we could have asked him 5 questions about what he said, he would have been incapable of answering any of them. And I don't even mean gotcha questions, I mean basic questions. So here's the problem. You have Congress that's full, with some exceptions, of know-nothings who nevertheless have enormous power and are fed talking points by the military-industrial complex, by the think tanks, by the neocons who are infected every corner of DC and beyond. And it's a real problem because it affects the rest of us. It affects our economy. It affects our existential future. If we continue to irritate nuclear-armed countries and pretend that we're going to go to war with them, it's a big problem for the United States. So next time you hear a congressman, don't forget, they don't know anything more than what they're being fed, with very few exceptions. And there are some exceptions to that. So